everybody knows you're in lockdown, and it's, boredom can come in if you're not otherwise engaged. So, that's one of the areas, and especially with, your access to online stuff now, and actually the emphasis that's changed over the years, and the danger in terms of gambling online and the opportunity it provides, it's just exacerbated by the fact that people are in lockdown. I'll say from the start, we're not just like the fun police, because we know that gambling has a part to play, and it's been in society since they used to bet on chariots in Roman times. So it's about the excessive nature of it, and we got caught up in that in terms of the FA Cup run, you may recall, and it was when Bet365 said, look, if certain teams, they got the rights to certain games in the FA Cup, and you wanted to see those games, you had to either place a bet or at least register an account with them. And I think that sort of started us on it, and because we were very quietly just avoiding taking any sort of individual gambling sponsors within the club. But the online stuff, as I say, has heightened it, and it's just accelerated what we were going to do anyway, which is in the medium term to set up almost a community around the club. And it's not just for fans, it's for people who are maybe family members of fans, or they have friends, etc., in the community who have an issue. And it's using the club in a way that we've used it in the community in the past, and that is it's an unconventional entry point into the system of help and support you can get. And then people are possibly more likely to approach us if it's their local club.
So how will the programmes work then, Mark? Are you going to be hosting some at the club, aren't you?
Eventually, yeah. At this point in time, clearly we can't because of lockdown. Yeah. But what we're going to do is, if people ring in, we don't anticipate it's going to be hordes of people ringing in, but if people ring in, then we basically triage the system and rank the extent of the addiction, as it were, and we'll move them on to the right. The partners that we talked about, Gamban and Big Step, but also into, if necessary, into the NHS. There's a gambling unit, an anti-gambling unit, based in the northwest. I think it's the only one outside of London, and so we've linked into them, so they will help with sort of clinical help if it's needed. So it's really about having a friendly voice to speak to. Just ring the club, and we'll sort of move on at this point in time, triage it, and move it to the right place for the right support. On top of that, when we come out of this, we'll then expand it even more. I mean, Scotty Davis, our captain, is the guy who's leading on it from the full player perspective, and he's got first-hand experience of issues. So he will be around, and he'll be more in play, I guess, when we come out of it, and we can you can meet up, and groups can meet up around the club, etc. And I would hope that we build some kind of community of people who, because there's nothing better for an addict to speak to somebody who's actually had gambling problems. And indeed, the guy, James, who leads the Big Step issue and who we've been started working with, he's an ex-addict, and he's there. So he understands the issues that people are facing, full on.
Yeah, and it's important to emphasise this is no quick fix, short-term thing, call it what you will. This is very much for the long term, isn't it?
No, it's not short-term at all, because at the end of the day, you can relapse and things like that. And so it is about us putting together something that becomes almost like a support group or a community. It's based around the club, as I say. It doesn't have to be fans, but people know that they can come to the club for support going forwards in through the season. It's another part of, if you like, the products that we have in terms of the community element to the club. We deal with Alzheimer's, we deal with people who are currently at risk, etc. So it's just another logical and obvious step. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'd like to see us help to redefine the relationship that football has with gambling, because certainly it is right across the sport. There's a reason for that. It is right across the sport. You've got to try and wean the game off. We're not preaching to other clubs. They can do whatever they want to do. Of course they can. But what we would say is that I think the FA have recognised that the relationship with gambling had gone too far, etc. And they were trying to step away from it. The real difficulty is getting leagues and clubs weaned off the money that comes into the game, and again for a very good reason. And I'd stress again, it's not gambling per se; it's just excessive gambling when it becomes an addiction.
Yeah. Just before you go, an update on how things are generally. How's the pitch coming on? You spoke to us last Saturday, I think. How's it all looking now?
Pitch is looking good. We get the stitching of the artificial grass into it in about probably 10 days' time, a week to 10 days' time. It doesn't look like a brave decision now because the games, paying gates and games starting again seem to get further and further away every time you look at it. But I just stressed at the time we did this, this was on about the 21st of March, we ripped the pitch up. And they were looking at people coming back training on the 3rd of April and playing on the 29th of April. I just didn't believe it at the time, so we took a chance on it. And fortunately, it's worked out. But we had contingency plans if that wasn't to be the case. So, no, we're hopeful that we'll come out of this possibly stronger as a club than going into it. And certainly, the building the links with the community has continued to pace because that's what we can do and that's what we can actually help. So we haven't just disappeared because games have stopped. We've actually shown that we're a permanent feature of the community.
Yes, definitely, and that's very important. As is this initiative. Just remind people again if they need help, if they need you, what's the best thing to do?
There's a number on the website. They just need to ring that. It's as simple as that. They'll then get a guy who's experienced in this who will just basically take them through a straight sort of questionnaire so he can gauge the extent of the addiction and the problems that the guy has. And then you'll immediately be linked into somebody who is either a guy who's been an addict or alternatively into gambling, where there's techniques which can get you to avoid the online stuff that's there, and then if it is a serious case, then we can refer you straight into the addiction clinic, the Northwest gambling clinic, basically. These are clinicians who can really deal with serious cases when it's gone, pretty far, and it can. And this is the people don't see it. It's a hidden addiction, and that's the main problem with it. But these guys are right across the whole gamut of it. Doesn't matter how badly you're affected by it. You just come to us and we'll direct you to the right people in the short term. In the longer term, there'll be a lot more supportive stuff, meetings and groups and so forth. But we'll build that as we go.